An excerpt from the book that literally saved my life, The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi.
The Alpha Buddha. I was first introduced to Corey Worthington, the Alpha Buddha, courtesy of Royce and his post, sorry? You can go ahead and look this up and read this from the Chateau's perspective, and I think the analysis is pretty good, but it might be easier for readers to simply search for Corey Worthington on YouTube. Corey Worthington was a teenage kid from Melbourne, Australia, who made internet infamy by hosting a raucous house party, unbeknown to his parents, resulting in $20,000 of property damage. He was later interviewed by an attractive local news anchor who made efforts to shame him into self-realizations and apologies. It's probably better to simply watch the video, linked on my blog, to get an idea of Corey's alpha cred. I call Corey the Alpha Buddha not in the hopes that men will aspire to his almost Zen-like being an alpha, but rather to provide an example of alpha in its most pure form. He literally is alpha, unclouded by pretense, afterthought, or conscious awareness of any influence that could have a hope of prompting introspection about his state. Corey Worthington is a piss-poor example of a human being, but he's a textbook example of alpha. I could use a lot of adjectives to describe this kid, but beta wouldn't be one of them. What's funny and a bit ironic is this kid has probably never come across Mystery Method or the PUA community or even heard of peacocking, and he gets naturally what millions of guys pay small fortunes at PUA seminars to acquire over the course of a lifetime. He's a selfish little prick, but what makes him insulting to normal men is his having the natural, internalized alpha bravado that so many AFCs wish they had. If you could bottle and sell this alpha essence, you'd be rich beyond imagine. Right now, about all of those self-affirming preconceptions you had about alphaness that I told you to stow away before hearing this are probably yelling to be let out of the mental box you put them in. But Rollo, how can you possibly think this arrogant douchebag kid could ever be an example of anything remotely alpha? You'll be pleased to know I fully empathize your outrage. You work hard to be a better man. You put in the self-analysis. You paid your dues coming to terms with unplugging and reinventing yourself. You're a success. Corey is a fuck-up. Corey's not a better man than you are. However, he understands alpha better than you do. Alpha is mindset, not a demographic. Alpha is as alpha does. It isn't what we say it is. There are noble alphas and there are scoundrel alphas. The difference is all in how they apply themselves. There's a tendency to approach every alpha argument from what a guy thinks is righteousness. Ergo, his personal definition of alpha is what appeals best to his sense of virtue. He earned his alpha cred, played by the rules, and by God, people, women, should respect that. However, the sad truth is that prisons are full of alpha males who simply channeled their drive toward destructive and antisocial endeavors. There are plenty of examples of indifferent asshole alphas who you wouldn't say are upstanding moral leaders at all. Yet women will literally kill each other or themselves in order to bang them because they exude a natural alphaness, just as Corey does here. There are alpha drug-dealing gang leaders, and there are alpha husbands, fathers, and leaders of industry. It's all in the application. Genghis Khan was alpha as fuck, and a leader of men, but probably would be on most people's douchebag list for that era. Here's an illustration. Guys like Corey infuriate men who have invested their self-worth in the accomplishments of what they think ought to be universally appreciated and rewarded. So when they're confronted with a natural alpha being undeservedly rewarded for brazenly acting out of accord with what they think the rules ought to be, they seethe with resentment. The natural response in the face of such an inconsistency is to redefine the term alpha to cater to themselves and their accomplishments as real men and exclude the perpetrator. The conflict then comes from seeing his new definition of alpha not being rewarded or even appreciated, as well as a natural alpha attitude, and the cycle continues. Your respect, or anyone else's, for an alpha has nothing to do with whether or not he possesses an alpha mindset. 3 failed marriages and 100+ lays has nothing to do with a man having or not having an alpha mindset. There are many well-respected betas who've never had a passing thought of infidelity, or may have 300 lays either with prostitutes or because they possess fame or stunning good looks, and women come to him by matter of course. The take-home message here is that you are not alpha because of your achievements. You have your achievements because you are alpha. You possess a mindset you either had to develop or it came naturally to you. I constantly field questions from young men asking me whether some action or behavior they displayed to a woman was alpha or alpha enough. The real answer is that alpha behaviors are manifestations of an alpha mindset. And just like Corey, the alpha Buddha, the introspect required to wonder if something was or wasn't alpha wouldn't ever be a consideration enough to ask. You almost need to have a childlike understanding to really appreciate what alpha really is. Kids get alpha. Even the picked-on, introverted beta to B kid has a better understanding of alpha than most adult men do because he lacks the abstract thinking required to rationalize alpha for himself. Most men, by our socialization and to varying degrees, lose this inborn alpha mindset over time. The naturals, the Coreys of the world, have a better grasp on its usefulness and repurpose it, either to their adulthood advantage or their detriment. Defining alpha. I understand why guys, both of the red and blue pill variety, have a problem with using the terms alpha and or beta. Depending on the perspective, terms that are definitive about what someone has an investment in make us uncomfortable. It's much more comfortable to put those issues into more subjective understandings, because when we're objective about them, we can't help the wondering about, or we doubt, our own status within that definition. Objective terms are very close to absolutes depending on who's doing the defining. From a generalized perspective, I feel that the terms alpha and beta are good reference points in assessing the characteristics that women find arousing and attractive in men for both short and long-term mating strategies. However, I think that beyond these convenient terms, men need to be more realistic about how they apply their own self-impressions in contrast with how women are interpreting the alpha and beta cues that they exhibit. For the record, at points in my life, I've personally been the worst, bottom-scraping beta, the douchebag alpha rock star, and the strong but lesser alpha father and husband. So it's with this in mind that I think guys shouldn't believe that their stars are set and they'll never live up to the manosphere standard of alpha.
The Rational Male, Preventive Medicine by Rollo Tomassi. Purchase your copy on Amazon and visit the website, therationalmale.com.